It all started on a lazy Sunday morning, one of those rare weekends when neither of us had plans, and the sun streamed lazily through the window blinds. I was in the kitchen making pancakes, my husband Daniel's favorite, when I decided to play a little joke. It wasn't anything grand or even particularly clever, but somehow, that joke set in motion a series of events that changed how he looked at me forever. Daniel and I had been married for 8 years. We'd settled into a rhythm, a life of quiet routines. He was the analytical type, a financial advisor who loved spreadsheets, predictability, and coffee without sugar. I, on the other hand, was more spontaneous. I'd left my marketing job a year ago to pursue freelance work, which left me more time at home and, frankly, more time to think. Maybe too much time. That morning, I stood in the kitchen wearing a ridiculous apron I had found online. It was bright pink with the words, "Master of Sarcasm," scrawled across the front in glitter. I even added a tiara just to complete the look. When Daniel walked in, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, he paused in the doorway and blinked. "Did I miss a memo? Are we celebrating something?" he asked with a yawn. I turned dramatically and waved the spatula in the air. "Your Majesty, breakfast is served by your humble royal chef who demands a raise in kisses and appreciation." He laughed, a real, hearty laugh that I hadn't heard in a while. "You're insane," he said, grinning as he walked toward the table. "But I like it." It was such a small thing, that interaction. But something shifted in his expression as he watched me bustle around the kitchen pretending to be royalty. For the first time in a long time, I saw warmth in his eyes, not just routine affection, but admiration. Like he was seeing me again, not just as the woman he shared a home with, but as the woman who once made him fall so hopelessly in love. Later that day, I found him in the garage, going through some old boxes. He pulled out a dusty photo album from our honeymoon and brought it inside. We sat on the couch flipping through pictures, laughing at our sunburnt faces and poor fashion choices. It turned into a whole afternoon of reminiscing. Daniel told stories I'd forgotten, ones where I had been bold, spontaneous, full of spark. "You were fearless," he said softly, running his thumb over a photo of me standing on a rock by the ocean, arms raised like I was about to fly. "I was foolish," I joked, nudging him. He shook his head. "No, you were the kind of person who made everything feel like an adventure." That night, as we got ready for bed, he wrapped his arms around me and whispered, "I miss that version of you. Not because this one isn't amazing, but because I think you miss her too." His words struck something deep in me. The truth was, I did miss that version of myself. Over the years, between the pressure of jobs, bills, and just surviving, I had tucked her away, the playful, daring woman I used to be. That simple joke had unlocked a door I didn't even realize I had closed. The next day, I did something different. Instead of staying inside, I took a walk to the bookstore downtown, something I hadn't done in months. I picked up a few novels, bought a journal, and treated myself to a cappuccino at the little cafe Daniel and I used to go to when we were dating. I even called my friend Melissa to plan a girls' night, something I'd kept putting off. When I got home, Daniel was already there, sitting on the porch with his laptop. He looked up, surprised. "You're glowing," he said. "Did something happen?" "I took myself on a mini date," I said with a wink. He closed his laptop and pulled me into a hug. "I like this. I like you like this." In the weeks that followed, something changed in our marriage. Not because of counseling or grand declarations, but because of little things. A joke, a tiara, a moment of lightness. We started spending more time together, not just coexisting, but really connecting. I shared my journal entries with him. He started reading fiction again because I told him it might unlock his imagination. He even started leaving me notes around the house. One said, "Thanks for being weird in the best way possible." Another, "Never stop wearing that ridiculous apron." Our connection deepened. We started going on walks in the evenings, just like we used to when we first moved into our neighborhood. We take turns planning surprise date nights. One night it was karaoke. He was terrible but adorable. The next it was a homemade fort in the living room with popcorn and old rom-coms. What amazed me most was how the joke, that silly moment in the kitchen, became a symbol of something bigger. It reminded us that joy doesn't come from perfection or planning, but from spontaneity, laughter, and not taking life so seriously. We began to see each other differently. I stopped seeing him as the guy who never took his eyes off spreadsheets, and he stopped seeing me as just the woman who made grocery lists and tracked bills. We started seeing each other as people again, individuals with quirks, humor, and stories to tell. About a month later, Daniel surprised me with a weekend getaway. Nothing fancy, just a cabin by the lake. He said he wanted to disconnect from the world for a bit and, more importantly, reconnect with me. We spent 2 days hiking, cooking over a fire, and talking until midnight under the stars. That first night there, he pulled me close and said, "That joke you made? It wasn't just funny. It reminded me of why I fell in love with you. You always brought light into my life, and I didn't realize how much I needed to see it again." I kissed him and said, "It was never gone, you just stopped looking." He smiled. "Then I'll never stop looking again." After we returned, our life wasn't perfect. We still had arguments over silly things like whose turn it was to clean the bathroom or what to have for dinner. But now, those moments didn't weigh us down. We laughed more, forgave quicker, and made time for the kind of joy that used to come naturally. Daniel even started cracking jokes of his own. At first, they were awkward and stiff. He was never the comedian of the two of us, but over time, he loosened up. One morning, he came into the kitchen wearing the same tiara I had worn weeks before. "Your royal chef is taking the day off," he declared. "We're ordering in." I nearly fell out of my chair laughing. That day, I posted a picture of him in the tiara on my private social media. Caption: "Turns out humor really is the secret to a happy marriage." The comments from friends were filled with laughter, heart emojis, and people asking how we made it work after all these years. I thought about it for a moment and replied with the truth. It started with a joke. The rest was just remembering who we are. One night, about 6 months after that first morning joke, we attended a neighborhood gathering. A couple we were friendly with, Lisa and Mark, approached us. Lisa smiled and said, "You two seem different lately. Closer. What's your secret?" Daniel looked at me and grinned. She wore a tiara and made pancakes. They both laughed, assuming he was just being funny. But I saw the look in his eyes and knew he meant every word. That tiny moment had been a spark, not a grand romantic gesture, but a flicker that reignited something we both thought we had lost.